Hello, magical people. Welcome to the As Above, So Below show. My name is Meg Moonbeam, and I'm so happy to be here with my soul sister, Ashala. How are you doing, Ashala?
Meg, tuning in here through the ethers, through this amazing portal of this time of year. Lovely to be joining you just ahead of our new moon and our, Halloween time. Really
Yeah.
important time. I'm so grateful that we're here tuning in together today.
Yay. I feel the same. And this is one of my most favorite times of the year. And today was the first day where I really felt like the magic of this time of year because we had all the leaves. Well, we've had the leaves changing and on the ground, but there was just that kind of scorpionic, like misty morning this morning with all the leaves. And I was just like, this is that time of year. We are in Halloween. We're
Totally.
in Samhain, and I love it. So before we get into the show content today, as always, you guys, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Beyond Mystic YouTube and Rumble channels. And if you'd like to have a personal reading with Ashala or I, those are available over at consultations.beyondmystic.net. And you can use discount code 10% off to get Beyond Mystic, all in one word, to get 10% off your next reading.
Yeah.
And Ashal, are you noticing any like themes in the readings lately, things that are coming up for you?
I'm noticing that many people are experiencing health complications. I mean, it is that time of the year where we're going here in the Northern Hemisphere. We're going into, starting to get colder. And as you're saying, the mist and the leaves and so on. But it is a time where people's immune systems get a little bit challenged. So I've had people talking about being low energy and also really working with anxiety. So those have been two themes that have come up this week, and it's really lovely to be able to support people in finding, it's not like there's a one size fits all answer to that, but finding where their guides or, in some cases at this time of year, their ancestors, what is ideally suited for them and how they're going to respond to the challenges. It's always a bit challenging when we go through these season changes, right? And then when you add on the political and the economic climate and all the other stressors, it's a lot.
Yeah, for sure. That's such a good point. And I've been noticing that too. Lots of people feeling anxiety big time. And I actually had a little bit of that yesterday, which I hadn't felt for a really long time, but it kind of just came out of nowhere. And I was like, what the heck is this? But yeah, makes sense within the current astrology, Scorpio season. Scorpio is one of the signs that rules anxiety, fear coming to the surface as well. And we do have Mars in opposition to Pluto at the moment, which is something we're going to be having all the way until April on and off. So it's a very heavy, considered adverse aspect where we can be anxious, a little bit more frustrated, on edge than usual.
Okay.
So we're in that. Rob Ha says, yep, dealing with the shadow big time. For sure. Have you been having that come up, Ashala? Like any shadow side things? Or is it this kind of with clients or?
Yeah, I want to say, I kind of work in these realms all year round, so I don't notice so much a really big change. I feel like I'm seeing, one of the things I'm seeing is a great contrast between shadow work, but people feeling so like brighter than usual. So usually around shadow work, it's like it's a sort of a deep dive, and they're they don't kind of come out of it really quickly, but I'm just seeing the resilience and the rebound is super fast right now. So people are diving deep and then they're coming up for air really fast as well.
Yeah, for sure. Claudette here says, I've been feeling energies around myself that are uninvited. That's an interesting word, but definitely want to make themselves known. Kind of weird. That's also been a big theme that I've been noticing too, with clients and people in my personal life feeling like, am I being attacked? I'm feeling a weird thing here. And that word uninvited, I've been hearing that a lot recently. Yeah. Could
Okay, interesting. Should we pull on that?
pull on that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Great
definitely.
idea.
Um, it's interesting because when I work with my students, when I'm working on tarot and divination, I talk about how when, sometimes they feel like if we're very psychically open, but we're not using our gifts,
Yeah.
they kind of, it's sort of like we're on all the time and we don't have a real proper practice for on and
Mhm.
off. And so what I recommend is that people develop a practice. It's sort of like they don't have to bang your door down if you're actually going to the door before they even knock.
Right.
So if you do things like working with tarot, working with divination and dowsing, for example, and if you do that on a, semi-regular basis, you are actually checking in before you have to wait for them to come and sort of knock on your door, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So let's have a look at what we need to know about this. I'm actually going to do a clearing spread on it.
Mm,
So clarity spread, and we got the clarity card. That's kind of a yes or a confirmation to what I just said.
right.
Um, yeah. Okay, interesting. It's almost like very, very specific open and close time, which is what I was just saying. Literally, this is like the vulnerability saying, like I take a time of the day or the week or the month
Yeah.
and I go maybe out in nature, or I create some sort of sacred space, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's saying a little prayer, lighting a candle, maybe cleansing a little bit. And then maybe I pull some cards, or I do some dowsing, or I pray, I meditate, and I ask for to be, receiving insights that are important, that are helpful, beneficial, and then waiting for that answer to come. Look at
Mm,
this. We have 3 sevens. We have the 17, which is the 1-7, and then we have the number 7 of the chariot, and then we have the 7 of wands. So the 7 is the self, the spiritual path. And I think we get a little bit off track. I mean, I do it. And I have all these tools and all these practices, and I still can go sometimes for 2 or 3 weeks where I haven't checked in. I haven't done, card pulls just to tune in and receive guidance of what I'm
mm,
supposed to do. So it feels like, yeah, we set intentional space, and then we listen and wait for, guidance. And the rest of the time we're armored. We're kind of like closed for business. So it's different from saying I'm always closed or I'm always open.
mhm.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense, and I think that's such a good point, and I'm guilty of that too, sometimes, big time. And I find I can be guilty of that when I kind of like am not honoring my boundaries and I'm not in the present moment and I'm in a go, 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 then I won't do the proper things that you just mentioned. And then I'll feel those things more
There we go.
for sure. So
Yeah.
that makes total
In
sense.
reflection, I'm thinking, yeah, that's when I get those things too, is when I haven't been paying attention. I've been out of touch. I'm just spun out a bit. And there's no shame in that. It's just like getting back on track. It's like, oh, right. Okay.
Mhm.
It's probably they're knocking because I haven't actually been doing much of a practice. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
We got a really good question here in the comments. Linda says, can you please define shadow work? How would
Mm.
you define that, Ashala?
I guess we could say that shadow work is work with the pieces of perspective, the emotional energies, the spiritual energies, the stories that are hidden from us, that we hide from ourselves. So usually there's a kind of a theme where we will, if something's unpleasant, we will tuck it away in our subconscious and we will try to just ignore it. We'll try to just pull ourselves off from it. And so every once in a while, you can feel that those things have built up. And it's really great to go in and purposefully, again, just like with this spread, going in and saying, I want to work on some of those things that I've been trying to avoid.
Mm.
And we can usually see how we're being invited to work on those things by how they show up. So you can notice, it's sort of like, needing to go and get your car tuned up, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm noticing that it's it's not running so well. And so we need to periodically go to this, and it's the same sort of thing, going in and diving in intentionally to look at some subconscious stuff that we've been hiding from ourselves. Dream work is another way that we do that. And people often say, oh, I'm so upset, I've got all these scary dreams, I'm having all these violent dreams, or like really maybe
Right.
gory, or like, super unpleasant dreams. And I'm saying, well, you're actually doing internal house cleaning. You're like, you've got stuff that has been put away for another day because you didn't have the time or the energy to work on it when it was present in your, in the forefront of your awareness. And
Mm-hmm.
that can kind of build energy in your subconscious. And so it needs to be cleared. That's how I describe it. Does that resonate with how you work with it, Meg?
That was, I think, a very well said explanation. Totally. And I think, that can sound scary if you've never heard that before. Shadow work, right? And I've heard some people immediately go, oh my God, you're into black magic, shadow work. It's like, no,
Right?
there's some, you may hear in the woo, some people say shadow work referring to like dark arts magic.
Mm,
Sometimes they're used synonymously, but we're referring to, yeah, like Ashala said, looking at those hidden parts of ourselves that can be deemed kind of embarrassing, sometimes our weaknesses or our challenges that aren't easy to put out and deal with in the open. So to me, there's so many different forms of shadow work, but I find the first step is just like being honest with yourself about if you have a major issue, right? Like
yeah.
if you're an alcoholic and you say out loud to the people you love, you know what, you guys, I think I'm like an alcoholic. That is a form of shadow work because you're bringing the hidden out into the open for healing to move forward.
Yes.
And there's like different forms of shadow work, energy healing. There's a lot of different layers to that. But yeah, Shal, I think you explained that very, very well. And
Mhm.
another question for you, Susan M says, Ashala, what do you do to close/cloak yourself? I would be so interested to learn your daily practices as well.
Thank you for that. Okay, well, this is sort of like, it's one of those things where you learn how to do something. It's sort of like saying, how do you ride a bicycle? And you're like, how do I ride a bicycle?
Right.
But I would say there's a few general things. And definitely with my readings, there is a general where I wash my hands a lot. I work with, I move a lot of energy through my hands. So at the end of my day, even between sessions, I will literally wash my hands, sometimes several times, with cold water. And it sounds like, oh, what I don't need to wash my hands several times, but it's
Right.
getting the energy, clearing that energy off of my hands. Same with like Epsom salts bathing at the end of my day or whatever. Like, again, there's that sense of cleansing. The cloaking is interesting. It feels like very similar to what I just said with this reading. When I don't think of cloaking as in putting on a shell to defend myself, even though I was speaking about that
Mm,
with this Chariot card. I think of cloaking as reconnecting with my own magnetic force. So
mm,
to me, cloaking is tuning in and getting grounded and getting recentered in my own strength, because it isn't about like I'm weak in here, but I'm going to put this kind of artificial shell around me and that'll protect me. It's like the protection is my presence.
right.
And so I kind of do, I guess you could call it reverse cloaking. I energize from the inside out.
Mm,
And so that is things like having different types of, there's things that I say before I start my day, like maybe a certain mantra, a certain prayer. I do it almost automatically now when I sit down to do readings, to do a session. It's like I literally can feel myself getting prepared, and it's like I'm amping up, not
yeah.
cloaking down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and something so important if you're going to be doing more of this work like Ashala and I do. The cloaking, the protection, it's absolutely essential,
Yeah.
in my personal opinion. And yeah, so, we're in this time of Halloween, of Samhain. The veils are very thin. And we were speaking before we went live on the show that it might be fun to ask for some messages from our ancestors. Would you
Mhm.
like to pull some cards, Ashala, from our
Definitely.
ancestors?
Definitely. I feel like it is a very, very special time. And for so many of us, we are out of touch with our roots and our ancestors. A lot of traditions have fallen by the wayside, and some of them for good reason, like certain, I want to say, superstitions about things, I think, um, are probably weren't designed to be very helpful to begin with. They were more
Right.
designed to be controlling. So we're probably better off without those things. But to throw the baby out with the bathwater, to literally say, oh, I don't want to have anything to do with, once people have crossed over, goodbye. Right? It's like I often say, our roots are what keeps us, like, if a tree has its roots cut off, it dies. Like,
Mm,
we are not really healthy without some kind of connection to our roots. So this is a time of year where we have the opportunity to just be reminded of that.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to pull 3 cards on this. What do our ancestors want to say to us? Okay, so we've got the spiritual warrior in the past. And, this is almost like a frequency. It's almost like they live on a certain bandwidth. And again, we've got a theme going on here today, Meg, because,
Mhm.
people are like, well, I don't want to be inundated and I don't want all their issues to come crashing in on me. And if I open that door, am I picking up on all their dysfunction and trauma and so on? And again, it's about how you go into that relationship. You're going in almost like you do to a relationship with people who are in body, and you say, this is how I approach relationship. You can either meet me here or I'm not interested, right? So you're coming in with that very empowered sort of, like, you're open-hearted and you're generous, but you're not going to take on their disharmony, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So and it's actually really about just having a little pause. So they're saying just take a pause. And interesting, this, we're going to talk about the Scorpio new moon, and they're saying just take a pause. What does this look like? Well, I mean, in the old-fashioned traditions, that people might have paused for a week or two at this time of year. They're
Mm,
going, we'd be lucky to get a couple of hours, right?
wow.
We'd be lucky to get a couple of minutes, for that matter. So they're saying just pause to take a moment. It's kind of like when we do here the Memorial Day, minute of silence or something.
Mhm.
They're saying just literally take a moment to reflect.
Right.
Um, and okay, very interesting. Um, Queen of Swords is a communicator. She's got amazing boundaries. She's very specific. So it feels like you may, in a way, ask for something, and ask, like, so basically ask for some support and then offer something. So it's a two-way relationship. You basically say, I would like to do this in your honor. I'm going to cook a meal. I'm going to light some incense. I'm going to buy these flowers. Maybe I'm going to take them to the gravesite of one of my ancestors. And I would like, this is what I'm requesting.
Right.
And it's like there's a communication. It's not opening the channel wide and saying, come on in, everybody, welcome. But it's also not, oh,
Oh,
did I glitch out there for a
yeah,
sec?
we can hear you now.
Okay, good. ancestors were roaming around, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. That is a beautiful message for sure. And let us know, you guys, if you've been feeling at all your ancestors this week around this time of year, if you've been having any synchronicities or dreams about them. Definitely the time of year where we can have that. I want to mention as well, speaking of magical things, Carla over at Ascension Organites has her Divine Masculine sale at the moment on her pyramids, beautiful masculine pyramids, 30% off until November 4th. So you guys can go check that out. And I also want to bring up, Ashala, the chart for our new moon in Scorpio that we are now within the portal of, that will be exact on November 1st, 2024 at 8:47 a.m. Eastern. And this is, I mean, we've been having so much not normal astrology. This is really not a normal new moon because it's a new moon in Scorpio, which is the fall position of the moon. The moon doesn't really like to be in Scorpio because Scorpio is about intensity and extremes, change, right? And the moon is about nurturing, security, intuition, the divine feminine. So it can be a challenging placement, but there's beautiful things that we can intend and put our energy towards at this new moon, which is really around empowerment and transformation. Right. Scorpio is really authentic, really no BS about where has your power maybe been taken away and how can you call it back, right? And we've got the two rulers of Scorpio, the two dispositors of this new moon, Mars and Pluto, in an exact opposition. So there is a big tension, quite an adverse aspect, but I feel like the positive of it is it is inviting us to be very conscious of our actions. Right. Mars is about our actions in the present moment. Are we going to do detrimental actions that could have a really negative effect, right? With that Mars opposite Pluto and Scorpio season, new moon in Scorpio. Or are we going to do our best to kind of be in like self mastery, right? And move forward with conscious action, right? Do you ever notice, Ashella? I at least notice when I do something that I know isn't in alignment, that I know is from my shadow side, I personally experience kind of the repercussions of that almost immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you have the same thing?
I do. I do. That is one of the, this is where it's almost like the insurance of true power is that we have to stay humble and we have to stay pretty much on our integrity path. We get really, we get really bumped hard if we get off our path.
Yeah.
So it is a devotion to step into doing all of this transformative healing, magical work, because you are basically saying, I'm prepared to do the work necessary. And I also recognize that with that power, of course, comes responsibility, and the consequences are greater when you step out of line. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. Definitely. So also Scorpio rules, hidden money, the financial system, powerful people, powerful systems, criminality, secrets being exposed from the dark side of life. So big changes happening in all those areas that we are already seeing in the collective. Would you like to pull some cards for us as a collective on this new moon in Scorpio?
Yes, it's so interesting. All the things that you just described are exactly what came up in my live forecast for this week.
Wow.
It was all about powerful allies, friends in high places. It was about hidden money and truths about the economy. Really interesting. Almost exactly word for word what you just said. So
that's wild.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, the new moon.
Yeah.
The new moon in Scorpio. Okay, so, and interesting, there was a lot that came up in the live forecast around balancing out karmic balance. And so far, we're off to reciprocity. The karmic balance of things is coming up here. Oh, another number 6. So the 6s in numerology and in the tarot have to do with coming into harmony, coming into balance. Things balancing themselves, and the decisions that we make, like the Lovers is about, we see it and we go, oh, it's about relationships. It can be about that, but more it's about our choices.
Mhm.
So, and the consequence, you just mentioned the consequence of the actions that you take. So
Right.
it's like really stepping into the consequence of our choices and being very aware of that. Oh, look, and a reward or a gift. So it feels like the karmic scales have kind of tipped, and things are moving in the favor of those of us that have struggled and been down, and our side of the narrative that's been suppressed and oppressed is rising.
Mhm.
So will we receive some kind of reward or payback? It's interesting when you're talking about these massive, opposition.
Right.
It feels like it has a lot to do with the other side that have been trying to manipulate and dominate, and it's their opposition. They're the ones that are going to really experience opposition now,
Yeah.
because they'll be blocked from doing that, is what
Right.
I'm feeling. Yeah.
That is so true.
Well,
Definitely resonates.
Meg, is it your birthday? Somebody's saying happy birthday. Is it your
Yeah,
birthday?
my birthday's tomorrow, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yay. This
Yeah.
is your birthday gift. There's going to
Oh,
be something. There's going to be something amazing happening this week. It's kind of like
wow.
it can go down in history. It's like you can go, yeah, I got that gift for my birthday.
Oh, okay, that's so crazy that you say that, because I had that feeling today. Or when
Really?
I like this morning, like very quickly after I woke up, which is, I don't know about you guys, but I get a lot of kind of intuitive messages right after I wake up. I felt, oh my God, something's going to happen like within the next few days that I'm going to consider a birthday gift. I swear to God. And now you're saying that. So that's exciting.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And
You're welcome.
it is like, Scorpio, Capricorn, Pisces, these signs, and Virgo too, these signs that can be more of the challenging ones, like they do have really positive aspects when you work with that challenging side, right? Like
Right.
Scorpio is the self-mastery of the shadow and our addictions and our, obsessions. And then Capricorn is the value of hard work through the challenge, and how
Mhm.
that's when we really feel, like we've accomplished something, is when it's not just given to us, we've actually worked for it.
Burned it. Yes.
And, Virgo is the challenge of being of service and noticing everything, and being very analytical, but having that gift of intuition and cleanliness and purity, right?
Okay.
And then Pisces is, rules the other side, rules the spirit world, but the challenge is being in a physical body. And how
Yes.
do we stay grounded and not really feeling like you're of this planet, but then the gift is oneness, enlightenment, intuitive abilities. And I think you, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, but I think you said in the show, like the psychic abilities don't come without a cost. I don't think those were your exact words, but something along those lines of,
Yes.
you have to be humble, right? Have to be humble, and you have to take care of your energy, or else
Yes.
you'll fall apart.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And it's one of these places where we acknowledge, like, I think people get a little bit confused because they're like, oh, well, let's say the dark force, the cabal, the controllers, they have all this power. And
Right.
these dark energies, these demonic energies have all this power, this supernatural power. It's like, well, they know how to steal energy, but
Yeah.
they cannot create power. Like, they are not a power generator. We are power generators in
Mhm.
our humbleness, in our service, in our love, in that frequency. We are incredibly, like, we have access to this massive power source, this universal loving light consciousness, and the generator energy, the
Right.
divine, manifestation
Mhm.
energy. And they can only try to steal, manipulate, and siphon off of that. They cannot, when you have a negative agenda and want to control and dominate others and are not coming in a place of love, it's like a safety catch. You don't get much power. You have to steal it.
Right.
So I think this is so important for humanity to say, oh, gosh, if that's the only power they have, then let's just cut them off.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
let's just lift ourselves up and be like, yeah, we can generate. And that's why they have to work so hard at keeping us afraid, programmed. And even then, humanity always cracks the code.
Yep. I love that. That is so, so true. So should we do maybe some readings for each of the sign groups for this new moon in Scorpio?
Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. And we'll start with our fire signs, which is the Aries, Leos, and Sagittarians.
Fire signs.
And I'll put up a new comment with those different signs. Forgot to put the signs in the highlight comment there.
Okay.
Oh, shoot.
Okay. Ooh, so far we got 2 queens. Isn't that interesting? Wow. Wow. Okay. So just notice the color, right? So bright and inspiring, all that yellow and orange and red. The 2 queens. So when we have 2 of a kind, we're mastering something. What are the queen's energies about? The queen energy is about being humble, being of service, but also being very, like, I want to say, kind of looking out for number 1 as well. It's a lot about self-care, self-actualization, self-development, self-mastery. So we've got the mastery, because when you have 2 of a kind, it's mastery. And then we've got 2 of a kind in the area of self-mastery. So there's a lot of work on self-mastery, both in the material, physical realm, and also in the creative, energetic. This is where fire signs excel to begin with. Creativity, spontaneity, that wild, coloring outside the lines energy. And then we've also got the 4 of Wands. So a general upgrade, not necessarily a massive upgrade, but you can really get some traction this week working on yourself, self-mastery. You can really up your, I want to say, frequency a couple of notches this week.
Cool. That is awesome. Thank you. And the fire signs are having this new moon in Scorpio activate their water houses.
Okay.
So the water houses of emotions, healing, intuition, and spirituality. And that's interesting that you use that word self-mastery, because, to really get into self-mastery, you need to open up to the spiritual side of things and go a little bit deep. Right. So for Aries, this is happening in your 8th house of Scorpio, which is about transformation and real deal healing modalities. Leo, the new moon is in your 4th house of home and family and your foundation and emotional well-being. And Sagittarius, the new moon is in your 12th house of dreams, psychic gifts, creative gifts, and behind the scenes rest as well. So that makes sense what you were saying.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah. And we got lots of fire signs in the chat. Holy guacamole.
Yeah,
So
look at that.
the fire signs are activated. Awesome. And next we'll go to our earth signs.
Okay. I couldn't help notice that little black kitty with the Queen of Wands as well.
Oh, yeah.
So there's just something I was tuning into, something to do with, well, both our animal nature, but also a real, you're talking about all that emotional work, almost like relational. And I get there's something to do with our pets. So something to do with the four-legged friends this week for fire signs.
Mm.
It's not always relevant when those characters show up in the spread, but sometimes I really notice, and I was just kept looking at that black cat, and it was like, oh, well, that's quite interesting that it's the week of Halloween, and we have that feline energy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about earth signs.
Earth signs.
Ooh, a little bit anxiety here. Oh, okay, hold on to your hats, earth signs.
Earth signs.
Oh my. Okay. How do we mitigate this? Let's talk about some of the ways we can move through this. First of all, yeah, we've got anxiety, a little bit of emotional overwhelm, and then that leads to a general sense of feeling a bit glum and maybe a little bit of self-pity. It could be easy to go down those, let's just say, negative spirals.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull 2 more cards to see how we can work with that for our earth signs this week. Yeah, okay. So on the one hand, stay in the practical. Earth signs love to just be busy and get stuff done and be very pragmatic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, kind of stay in your lane, don't just shut down and hide away. Continue to kind of be in the practical realm, but also allow yourself the opportunity maybe to even get some support therapeutically this week. Because it feels like you're going to be, we talked about that shadow work. I really feel that for the earth signs this week.
Interesting. That's really interesting, because that makes me think about how Pluto, the planet that rules the shadow side, the dark night of the soul, all that stuff, even crisis, feelings of anxiety, is at the end of Capricorn, an earth sign, right? So the earth signs can be feeling that more than some of the other signs, right? Yeah. And interesting too, because this new moon in Scorpio is happening in the air elemental houses for the earth signs. Yeah. And might have to do with relationships with other people. Maybe there's, not to just put it all on other people, but Tauruses, it's happening in your 7th house of other people, love and work. Virgo, this is happening in your 3rd house of siblings, friends, neighbors, local community. And Capricorn, this is happening in your 11th house of like-minded community, friends, people that bring us into the future. So there may be like some major shadow work going on even in relationships, social life.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Yeah, well, and I think one of the beautiful things about looking at these one by one is that this is temporary. We've got that 5 energy. This is temporary, earth signs. It's not going to go on forever. And it feels also very important to acknowledge to not go into escapism, because that 7 of Cups it can really tempt us to go into escapism patterns, whether it be, consuming certain substances or, media or whatever it is that you do to escape. So just really noticing that if you can get some, they're saying, if some weeks, sometimes in life, you get even more out of going and, say, having a counseling session than you would for the rest of the whole year. Right. For you, earth signs, this would be the week to do that.
I love that. And I love that that's where, we're honest about what we're getting, right? With the cards or our intuition or the astrology. There's the conscious way to work with it. And then there's the, I'm just going to pretend that that's not happening. And that can make it like even worse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Ashala, for that. Frustrated Searcher says, glad it's temporary.
Yeah. It's temporary.
This too shall pass. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Okay, awesome. Let's take a look for our air signs for this new moon in Scorpio, which is Gemini, Libras, and Aquarians.
Okay, another 7. We noticed there's been a lot of 7s
Yeah,
today, and that is the spiritual number. That is the number of like the spiritual journey, the self, the journey of the self.
right.
Um, okay, energy. So managing energy this week, air signs. This is the burnout burden card, energetic burden.
Mm,
And look at that. Taking some, this is interesting because there's rest and then there's kind of time out. I don't know why the guys are saying this like two separate things, but it's like sometimes we almost have to put ourselves in a kind of a timeout or something. Like I know I'm an air sign and it's really hard for us to stop the chatter, settle the nervous system. Actually, what do you have to do to put, and sometimes it's situational. Like I notice if I go to like a yoga class or a meditation class and I'm literally like, I can't get up and go, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll do this later. I'm like, I have to sit there because I'm there and I've committed and I don't want to look foolish, right? So it's like putting yourself somewhere where you're going to have to take some downtime, especially for your brain.
mm,
Air signs, like really stepping outside of the normal for yourself and putting yourself into some kind of like a meditation or restorative yoga class or something would be perfect because you literally are like putting yourself somewhere where you have to calm.
yeah. That is so interesting because the air signs are having this new moon in Scorpio in the earth elemental houses,
Mhm.
which it's
Okay.
kind of like bringing them down to reality, right? Which can kind of be like that hanged man perspective change in a way because they're so, you air signs are so creative and inspirational and up in the mental realm, right? It's like flipping it down. There's something else to look at.
Totally.
Yeah. So
Focus on that earth.
focus on that earth. So there's an emphasis, air signs, on material resources, work, income, responsibility. For Gemini specifically, this is about health, routines, and day to day work with the new moon in your 6th house. Libras, with the new moon in your 2nd house, it's about your values, your income, the material things around you, and your pleasures and enjoyments of life. And Aquarians, the new moon is in your 10th house of your long term goals, legacy, and career success.
Mhm. So it's interesting that there's this energy of like kind of holding, but both the hanging man and the 7 of wands are kind of like hold on and but don't take on. Interesting, that's like the
Right.
motto I'm hearing. Hold on, but don't take on too much.
Mm,
So it's almost like hold on to what you've already done, but don't try to take on any more, is what I'm hearing.
right.
Mhm.
Ooh, interesting. Very interesting. Okay, there you go, air signs. Happy new moon in Scorpio.
Mhm.
And now, last but not least, we go to our water signs, the Cancers, Scorpios, and Pisces. And it is a water sign new moon.
Mhm.
CeeLo Joe says, "Oh my God, I just saw Meg's head." Yeah, it's witch legs. If you guys were like, "What the hell is on Meg's head?" Witch legs, because it's Halloween.
So cute. Okay, drum roll. Water signs. Ooh, the big wake up,
Ooh,
the big call to arms, and um, more inner work, more inner work. This is also, the eights are where we've gotten into a routine with something and
mm,
we're being asked to step outside of the routine. So similar in a way to the air signs and search for that missing cup. So the 8 cups are here on the wall, but there's a space there for the ninth cup. The ninth cup is wish fulfilled. So it's sort of like something's missing emotionally, water signs, and you're searching for this missing piece. So it's also the Vision Quest card, which is really nice. So a big wake up, and searching for something that's missing. Oh, and another 8. So that you can kind of kickstart a new cycle or something. This is regeneration, this card.
Mm.
So
Interesting.
I'm curious, where are the water signs being
Yeah,
impacted?
that's in the fire elemental houses. And I made, sorry guys, I don't know why every time I make a typo, so I apologize about that. It doesn't say in the fire houses of energy, passions, fun, and extroversion. So, to me, fire is very much about self, confidence, fun, pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, what did you say the wands card was? Like 8 of wands is
Regeneration.
regeneration.
It's swiftness, it's action. It's like it's quite dynamic and very fiery, but
Mm,
it's almost like you've got to go through this little phase of like, well, it's almost like a bit of disarmament or something.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
right. Yeah. So there is more fun and pleasure available, but there's something for us to face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
And
And
this is the perfect time to do that because it's the big judgment, the big wake up call.
right. A big wake up call. Holy guacamole, water signs. This is going to be intense for us, this new moon in Scorpio. Whenever I see that judgment card, I'm always a little bit like, because you never know what it's going to be.
Okay, but you know what? Look at this. You get to climb out of the coffins of the past.
Right.
like what a theme for Halloween. You get to
Yeah.
climb out of your coffin and go off on a little jaunt, by yourself and say, gosh, I think I could do better than that. What's
Right.
missing to fulfill my wishes, because
Mhm.
this is actually emotional fulfillment too. And then it's like when you answer that, the universe, what's that they say, if you know what you want, then the universe can start to bring it towards you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So same.
I'd love to climb out of my coffin. This is Terry.
Yeah. I love that. But Bajish says, wow, seems like everyone has a bit of a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's Scorpio, right? It's like,
I mean, the fire signs seem to be having the easiest part of it all. I don't know what that's about, but they seem to be like, oh, la, la, just like,
that's so funny. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Yeah. So cancers for you specifically, the new moon is highlighting your fifth house of your gifts and talents being shared with the world, your confidence, children, and your inner child. Scorpio, it's your annual new moon. So this is, I think, a big judgment coming forward. And I've been giving a warning out to the Scorpios, and I am a Scorpio because that Mars Pluto opposition is our 2 rulers in an opposition. So this is like being very mindful of your energy. And when that judgment card does come up, not poo-pooing it, but really, okay, what is that like is that the 8 of Cups or what was that? Yeah,
8 of
8 of
Cups. Yeah. So we have another double. Okay. So if
wow.
you've got 3 cards and 2 of them are the same, that is pretty extraordinary. We had that
Mm,
earlier on, right? We had the double queens. This is 2 eights. Eights are this patterns of manifestation. It is
right.
like the momentum. It's sort of like building the habit. So there is a little bit here, habit of self-sacrifice with
Mm,
the water signs. And this is a time to like look for that piece that's missing. Is where you're not just going to sacrifice your own happiness all the time. You're
yep.
looking for that missing piece. So the key to actually working with that opposition is to find what you really desire emotionally, what is really fulfills you in your heart, and
Mm,
then ask for that.
I love that. Ask
Mhm.
and you shall receive. Right. And I love for our Pisces, they've got the new moon in the 9th house, which is the house of Jupiter and Sagittarius. So careful what you wish for. Okay. And dream big and meditate and set your intentions because you're already very naturally open and intuitive, and you're going to be getting lots of ideas and expansive consciousness. So yeah, that's what we got for our water signs.
Love it, love it, love it.
Anything, Ashala, that we haven't touched on in the show yet today that you want to bring up that you're feeling, or any words of wisdom for everybody?
Yeah, I want to kind of close off just speaking briefly about, that we are at this time where we call it, in the, I guess you want to say in the natural calendar, we are in the season of the harvest season, and associated with this All Souls Eve or All Saints Eve, and also known as Samhain, which is this one of the cross quarters of the yearly cycle. And we'd say that this is the time where we're close to our ancestors and the departed loved ones and so on. And it's also a time where people are kind of fixated a little bit on dark energy, right? So I think there's a healthy aspect to that. I think there's a healthy part where we get to externalize some of that and get it out, out of the shadow realm. It's also this has been heavily programmed by the cabal,
Right.
heavily. So we are looking at a time where the people who are still completely wired into those programs are watching horror movies,
Right.
binge watching horror movies. We've got everybody's feeding their children massive amounts of sugar. It's, it's a little bit like, for those of us that are doing the energy balancing work, it is very potent. And I feel like we also think of this time of year as purification and release, right? So I think of consuming a ton of sugar is the opposite of purifying and releasing. Let's toxify ourselves more.
Yeah.
So I'm just basically, it's not about, don't do anything and don't celebrate any of that. It's more about be aware that a lot of people go so far into that, and that there has been an intentional, I want to say, program designed to really, I want to say, siphon a lot of our fear energy in this particular time of year. And so it's a little bit of a time to acknowledge where you're at on that spectrum and show up again, that inside out, right? It's not about protecting yourself from the dark energies. It's about not resonating with them as much as the mainstream narrative is pulling us. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, but such wise words of wisdom to end with, Ashala. Jeez Louise. Yeah, and it's like it has been so inverted, right? A lot of our sacred days, those sacred seasonal shifts have been inverted, and it's confusing. And it's actually, I don't know where I've heard this, but it did really resonate with me, that, the natural time, the natural calendar, when we are off course with that, that's highly detrimental to our health. Right? So like you said, if we're like taking in all this candy, which I don't think there's anything wrong with a little bit of candy or a little, dessert every now and then is good. But, overloading on the junk, overloading at a time, like you said, when it's about cleansing, that's like highly detrimental, actually.
It really is. You know what we're giving out this year? Crystals.
Oh, cute.
You got this. It's sort of like a candy bowl, a fancy candy bowl, but it's full of really beautiful polished crystals, like, the little ones that you get at the metaphysical store. So it's like, it looks like a bowl of really yummy candies, but we're like, don't eat
You're
those.
gonna love that. Kids love crystals.
They love them, right? And it's like, for what you're going to spend on a big gross bag of candy, go out and buy like, a couple of dozen crystals, and it's so lovely just knowing that the kids are going to put that up on their windowsill, and or put it in the garden or whatever.
Oh, that's such a good idea. I'm so happy that you're doing that. Everybody's saying so with Shalas for trick or treating.
Trick or treats, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for today's As Above, So Below show. And before we finish up, we want to share as well that the Crypto Crash Course is available on the Beyond Mystic Academy. Amazing course for anyone wanting to start to get into crypto, which is going to be a part of our future with Pluto going into Aquarius. So that's with JSNIP4 and Coco Level 1 Crypto Crash Course. And you can save 25% off until November 1st with code JSNIP4. And again, if you'd like to have a personal reading with Ashala or myself,
Psychic tarot reading.
psychic tarot reading. I said it right. Yay. Yeah, those are over at the link in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for your positive comments and birthday wishes. Yay. And we'll see you all next week. Our next show, Ashala, is going to be on Election Day.
Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord.
Yeah. So, oh my Lord. Yeah, we'll be with you guys on election evening.
Oh, that is wonderful.
That'll
wonderful.
be wild. So we'll generate some positive.
Generate some amazing energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So yeah, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, everybody. And we love you all so much. Happy Samhain, Halloween, and new moon in Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.